Welcome to Study Session 8, The Human Reproductive System. Introduction. The life of every human being begins at the time of conception, and this involves some processes in the human body. To this extent, the human reproductive system will be discussed in these combined study sessions. Learning outcomes. At the end of this study session, you should be able to 1. Explain the concept of human conception. 2. Discuss the differences between the reproductive system of the male and that of the female. 3. Explain the major phases of prenatal period in the female. Human conception. The reproductive system is a system of organs within an organism which works together with others for the purpose of reproduction. Many non-living substances such as fluids, hormones, are also important accessories to the reproductive system. Human reproduction takes place as internal fertilization by sexual intercourse. The life of a human being begins at the time of conception, when the nucleus of the sperm, male reproductive cell or gamete, fuses with the nucleus of the ovum, egg, in the fallopian tube or oviduct. The male sperm is ejaculated into the female during sexual intercourse. The sperm then travels through the vagina and cervix into the uterus or fallopian tubes for fertilization and implantation, after which gestation, the process of development of the womb between conception and birth of the fetus, then occurs within the female's uterus for approximately 9 months. Prenatal development. The process of development from conception to birth is called prenatal development and is usually subdivided into 3 phases, and they are: period of ovum, the period of embryo, the period of fetus. Period of the ovum. This lasts from fertilization until the time that the fetus is firmly implanted in the wall of the uterus. This is between 10 to 14 days. The fertilized ovum continues multiplying into cells as it moves from the oviduct to the uterus. The period of embryo. The period of embryo lasts from the time of the ovum attachment to the wall of the uterus until the first occurrence of ossification, the formation of solid bones. That is between 2 to 8 weeks. At this period, cellular division continues to occur at a very rapid rate, and cellular differentiation or specialization occurs. By 2 months, the embryo is approximately 1 inch or 3 centimeters and is beginning to resemble a human being. The placenta and umbilical cord are developed, and these maintain the connection with the mother's body, from which the embryo obtains nutrients, digested food, and through which the embryo expels wastes. The period of fetus. This stage extends from the end of 2nd month from time of ossification until birth, that is between 8 to 40 weeks. The various body systems which emerged during the embryonic period become well developed and begin to function. Muscular and nervous systems develop at great speed. By the 5th month, reflexes such as swallowing or sucking occur. By the 6th month, the fetus eyelids have developed and are functional. At approximately 28 weeks after fertilization, physical development is far advanced enough and that the fetus could survive if it were born prematurely and probably taken care of. Gestation ends with birth. The process of birth is known as labor. Labor consists of the muscles of the uterus contracting, the cervix dilating, and the baby passing out of the vagina. Some important conditions that lead to conceptions are as follows. An egg is usually released at each menstrual cycle. The egg is released about 14 days before menstrual cycle. The eggs live for 12 to 24 hours. Sperm can live for 5 days in a woman's vaginal tract when deposited. This means that a woman is fertile for as long as 5 days before ovulation due to sperm life, and after ovulation she is considered fertile up to 3 days due to egg life. This amounts to 7 to 8 days of a cycle each month. The rest are not considered to be fertile days, and intercourse during that part of the cycle could not result in pregnancy. The female reproductive system. The female reproductive system is a series of organs primarily located inside the body and around the pelvic region that contribute towards the reproductive process. This female reproductive system contains mainly 1. Ovary, which produces ova, eggs, or female gametes. Fallopian tube or oviduct. This is the path that leads eggs to uterus or womb. Is the site of fertilization by spermatozoa. Fallopian tunnel. This is the path that receives ripe eggs or cells as they are released by the ovary. Uterus or womb. This shelters fertilized egg or embryo or fetus during development. Vagina. Passage through which male organ introduces sperm or male gametes into the uterus. It is also the passage of fetus during birth. 6. Cervix. This is the entrance to the uterus. It regulates the opening of vagina. 7. Vulva. This is the opening of the vagina. The male reproductive organ. The male reproductive system is a series of organs located outside of the body and around the pelvic region of a male that contribute towards reproductive process. The primary direct function of the male reproductive system is to provide the male gamete or spermatozoa for fertilization of the ovum. The major reproductive organs of the male are testes. This is where the sperm is produced, which is then housed in the temperature regulating scrotum. Penis. The penis is the male organ. It has a long shaft and an enlarged bulbous shaped tip called glans penis, which supports and is protected by the foreskin in uncircumcised males. Scrotum. The scrotum is a pouch-like structure that hangs behind the penis. It holds and protects the testicles. It also contains numerous nerves and blood vessels. Epididymis. The epididymis are whitish mass of tightly coiled tubes cupped against the testicles, act as a maturation and storage for sperm before they pass into the vas deferens that carries sperm to the ampullary gland and prostatic ducts. Vas deferens. The vas deferens, also known as a sperm duct, is a thin tube approximately 30 centimeters long that starts from the epididymis to the pelvic cavity. Accessory glands. 3 accessory glands provide fluid that lubricate the duct system and nourish the sperm cells. They are the seminal vesicles, the prostate gland, and the bulbourethral gland or Cowper gland. Phases of prenatal period in the female. The process of prenatal development occurs in 3 main stages, which are the first 2 weeks after conception are known as the germinal stage. The 3rd through the 8th week are known as the embryonic stage. The time from the 9th week until birth is known as the fetal period, the germinal stage. The germinal stage begins with conception, when the sperm and egg unite in one of the 2 fallopian tubes. The fertilized egg, known as zygote, then moves toward the uterus, a journey that can take up to a week to complete. Cell division begins approximately 24 to 36 hours after conception. Within just a few hours after conception, the single-celled zygote begins making a journey down the fallopian tube to the uterus, where it will begin the process of cell division and growth. The zygote first divides into 2 cells, then into 4, 8, 16, and so on. Once the 8th cell point has been reached, the cell begins to differentiate and take on certain characteristics that will determine the type of cells they will eventually become. As the cells multiply, they will also separate into two distinct masses: the outer cells, which eventually becomes the placenta, while the inner cells will form the embryo. Cell division continues at a rapid rate, and the cells then develop into what is known as blastocyst. The blastocyst is made up of three layers: the ectoderm, which will become the skin and nervous system; the endoderm, which will become the digestive and respiratory system; the mesoderm, which will become the muscles and skeletal systems. Finally, the blastocyst arrives at the uterus and attaches the uterine wall, a process known as implantation. Implantation occurs when the cell nestles into the uterine lining and ruptures tiny blood vessels. The connection web of blood vessels and membranes that forms between them will provide nourishment for the developing being for the next 9 months. Implantation is not always an automatic and surefire process. Researchers estimate that approximately 58% of all natural conceptions never become properly implanted in the uterus, which results in the new life ending before the mother is ever aware she is pregnant. When implantation is successful, hormonal changes halt a woman's normal menstrual cycle and cause a whole host of physical changes. For some women, activities they previously enjoyed, such as smoking and drinking alcohol or coffee, may become less palatable, possibly part of nature's way of protecting the growing life inside of her. The embryonic stage. The mass of cells is now known as embryo. The beginning of the 3rd week after conception marks the start of the embryonic period, a time when the mass of cells become a distinct human being. The embryo begins to divide into 3 layers, each of which will become an important body system. Approximately 22 days after conception, the neural tube forms. This tube will later develop into the central nervous system, including the spinal cord and brain. Around the 4th week, the head begins to form, quickly followed by the eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. The cardiovascular system is where the earliest activity begins, as the blood vessels that will become the heart start to pulse. During the 5th week, buds that will form the arm and legs appear. By the time the 8th week of development has been reached, the embryo has all the basic organs and parts except those of the sex organs. It even has knees and elbows. At this point, the embryo weighs just 1 gram and is about an inch in length. The fetal stage. Once cell differentiation is mostly complete, the embryo enters the next stage and becomes known as fetus. This period of development begins during the 9th week and lasts until birth. The early body system and structures established in the embryonic stage continue to develop. The neural tube develops into the brain, and spinal cord and neurons form. Sex organs begin to appear during the 3rd month of gestation. The fetus continues to grow in both weight and length, although the majority of the physical growth occurs in the later stages of pregnancy. This stage of prenatal development lasts the longest and is marked by amazing change and growth. During the 3rd month of gestation, the sex organs begin to differentiate, and by the end of the month, all parts of the body will be formed. At this point, the fetus weighs around 3 ounces. The end of the 3rd month also marks the end of the 1st trimester of pregnancy. During the 2nd trimester, or months 4 through 6, the heartbeat grows stronger and other body systems become further developed. Fingernails, hair, eyelashes, and toenails form. Perhaps most noticeably, the fetus increases quite dramatically in size, increasing about 6 times in size. The brain and central nervous system also become responsive during the second trimester. Around 28 weeks, the brain starts to mature faster with activity that greatly resembles that of a sleeping newborn. During the period from 7 months until birth, the fetus continues to develop, put on weight, and prepare for life outside the womb. The lungs begin to expand and contract, preparing the muscle for breathing. While prenatal development usually follows this normal pattern, there are times when problems or deviations occur. Summary of study session. In this study session, you have learned that 1. The reproductive system is a system of organs within an organism which works together with others for the purpose of reproduction. Many non-living substances such as fluids, hormones, are also important accessories to the reproduction system. 2. The female reproductive system is a series of organs primarily located inside the body and around the pelvic region that contribute towards the reproductive process. The male reproductive system is a series of organs located outside of the body and around the pelvic region of a male that contribute towards the reproductive process. The primary direct function of the male reproductive system is to provide the male gamete or spermatozoa for fertilization of the ovum. The process of prenatal development occurs in 3 main stages, which are: the first 2 weeks after conception are known as the germinal stage. The 3rd through the 8th week are known as the embryonic period. The time from the 9th week until birth is known as the fetal period. We have come to the end of study session 8. Thanks for listening.